Hey guys, how are we doing? It's Cliffe here, and it occurred to me that in all my videos on YouTube I've never really done a video just talking about my Suhr, about my number one guitar, which I've kind of called Bluey because it's blue. It's trans whale blue, I think it is, or something along those lines, and why this has become my number one kind of, this is my guitar. This is what drives my guitar playing passion these days. Obviously, many of you know I used to play an Ibanez JS100. I've had anything between 2 and 7 of them at different times. I have 2 now. Snowy is here with me in Hong Kong. It's kind of my backup guitar that hardly ever gets touched. And Beastie is back in the UK because I needed a guitar to play in the UK. So that's, and that was my main guitar. I got the first one in 2004, so for 9 years or thereabouts, that became what I played. And then I got this. I'd been looking at Suhrs for a while, and Suhr standards in particular, and I'd fallen in love with one in a shop that's no longer there in Manchester, back in England, and like kind of tried to work out how could I afford it. Never did. Then the guitar sold. I was kind of heartbroken in a sense, but I was already, I think, on a path towards a slightly more traditional guitar anyway. That was kind of the one without the scratch plate. It was a humbucker, single humbucker guitar. Had the Goto 510 bridge on it, but I started to get more into kind of traditional bluesy kind of stuff, and also the kind of guitars. I think going to a straight Strat from what I was playing would have been too weird, so that was never my intention. But then I came to Hong Kong. I met Brian Chan at Unisound, and there was this. And I played lots of Suhrs, I played a couple of Tiles, I played all sorts of high-end guitars, and this one was the one that I fell in love with. And ironically, it's one of the cheapest guitars that Suhr make, or used to make. It's a Pro Series S4, with the upgrade of stainless steel frets, which, if you've never played a guitar with stainless steel frets, is definitely worth trying out. It makes it slightly brighter sounding, but it means the frets will last forever. Both Beastie and Snowy need a refret now after, well, they probably needed one after about 5 years, to be fair, but I've never had it done, and certainly around the low frets there's noticeable dents on the B and the G string in particular. So this shouldn't ever have that problem. I went for maple neck because I'd had one guitar in the past with a maple neck, and didn't get on with the guitar at all. It was a Washburn Mercury Series MG42. In fact, it looked very similar to this in the sense that it was blue and had a maple neck and a scratch plate. It had 24 frets. It was humbucker or humbucker, single humbucker. I can't remember exactly. Had a locking trem that was naff. So it was different in some ways, but always liked the look of the guitar. Just never got on with it. Never got on with 24 frets. So maple just kind of, I mean, I like it visually. I think it fits this shape quite well. I like that in the humidity in Hong Kong, I don't have to worry as much about keeping the level of moisture in the air quite as precise, because maple is much more hardy than rosewood. I don't have to oil it when I change strings, because I mean that's always an extra hassle that you really wish you know to do. So went with the maple, love it. Couldn't imagine going with anything else now. It's got the sort of locking tuners, which make strings changing a doggle. If you've ever changed strings on a guitar with a Floyd or a locking trem system, you'll know it's a nightmare. It's not too bad if you go one string at a time and you use the same gauge of strings, so you don't need to mess around with any setup or anything. But it's still, this has reduced stringing time to a third of what it was with the old guitar. So that's a huge difference. It also means that I wouldn't be afraid of gigging without a backup. With Snowy, that would just send me into absolute panic, because if I break a string, I've lost 5 minutes of in between songs or whatever, and that just doesn't look good. This I could probably put on one change of string in, I don't know, a minute tops, and I can probably talk for a minute and keep people entertained while I'm doing it. And then pickup wise, it actually came with a black and cream Zebra SSH Plus, which is a great sounding pickup, but I didn't like it aesthetically in terms of the colour of it, and it wanted something that was just a little bit more vintage. So I actually bought a Suhr SSV Plus, which is just the vintage output model, and stuck it in there. And it also came with black control knobs. I'm not sure why. Brian would be the person to tell you that, but I changed it out with white ones, just so it works visually. And that's pretty much it. It's not heavy. It's not a light guitar. It's not as light as Snowy, but it's not a heavy guitar. I just love it. It's just hard to say how much this guitar. I never thought I'd find a guitar to replace Snowy. I thought I'd find ones to supplant it and maybe different things. But since I've had this is absolutely my #1 guitar, and it just sounds killer. I love the humbucker single combination. It's just so much more versatile. I love those in between sounds, and then the single chords on their own are just a bit more biting. It's just a bit more, and then as I say, the bridge humbucker. And I guess the only weird things about it, in terms of how I use it, is that I tend to run the tone control at 8, not at 10, so it just gives me a chance to pull a little bit of brightness out if I want to. But everything is set up with the tone control at 8, so it gives me the flexibility. I use the volume control a lot. Because I've got a compressor in my chain, it means that it just cleans up my overdrive pedals when I drop it down. So I can run the volume right down at 2 or 3. And it's still giving me level. And then the gain just increases. This is a low gain overdrive pedal. If I turned on a higher gain one, it would sound a bit cooler, a bit more obvious. Yeah, so that's it. Go to 510 is amazing. It's, if anything, as stable as the Ibanez Low Pro 2 or whatever is in Snowy. Edge Pro 2, I think. And just much less in the way. Strung with D'Addario XLs at the moment, so hopefully soon to be NY XLs, 9.5 to 44, which is kind of the in-between set. I experimented with string gauges because I wanted something to feel like Snowy did. Snowy usually has 10s on, but for some reason the 9.5 to 44 just felt more natural with this guitar. And then I've got locks, strap locks on my DSL strap, so I just changed out the strap buttons with these, and they just clip on and off. And once they're clipped on, I can get it on with the strap there. They're never going to come off. You can hang these out by the strap from one strap button and it'll be fine. But what I also like about them is that they're really low profile. So unlike big strap lock systems, these, that's smaller than the strap button that was there. And there's not a crazy amount sticking out of the strap. So it just works. There we go. That's my story of my Suhr S4.